Looking at the graph, y equals the cosine of 3x minus pi over 2, we're asked to identify the amplitude and the period. The amplitude is found by taking the absolute value of a. The period is found by taking 2 pi over b. We're also going to want to look at what the phase shift is, which is found by taking c over b. The a value is the number in front of cosine, which is 1. The b value is the number in front of the x, which is 3. And the c value is the number after the minus sign inside with that 3x. Our d value would be outside the function, added or subtracted, which we don't have. So the d is 0, which means that we are not translating this graph up or down. So the amplitude is the absolute value of 1, or 1. The period is going to be 2 pi over 3. The phase shift is found by taking c over b, which is pi over 2 divided by 3, or pi over 6. Adding pi over 2, we get pi over 2 is less than or equal to 3x is less than or equal to 5 pi over 2. And then we divide through by 3. And that gives us the interval pi over 6 to 5 pi over 6. We're going to get one full cycle from pi over 6 to 5 pi over 6 then. Now, like I said, normally the graph of cosine goes through at 0, 1, but we are shifting it to the right, pi over 6. That's going to go pi over 6, 1. And then at 5 pi over 6, that's the end of our full cycle, so we will also end at 1. Halfway in between pi over 6 and 5 pi over 6 is pi over 2. That's where we're going to reach our minimum of negative 1. And these values are 1 and negative 1 because we don't have an amplitude change. In between pi over 6 and pi over 2 is where we would find our 0. That happens at pi over 3. Same thing with in between pi over 2 and 5 pi over 6. We have our 0 at 2 pi over 3. I'm going to sketch the graph and label the key points. And that is the graph of y equals cosine 3x minus pi over 2. Skill practice 4 asks us to identify the amplitude, period, phase shift, and vertical shift. We're going to identify A, B, C, and D in order to be able to answer those questions. A is the coefficient of cosine, which is 2. That means we have an amplitude of 2. B is the coefficient of the x, which is 3. C is the number after the subtraction sign inside, which is pi. And D is the number that's being added on the outside or subtracted, but this means we're moving up 3. Okay, the amplitude is the absolute value of A, which is 2. The period is 2 pi over B, which is 2 pi over 3. The phase shift is C over B, which is pi over 3. And the vertical shift is 3. This means that our normal point of 0, 1 for cosine is going to shift to the right pi over 3, up 3, and then have an amplitude and be stretched by a factor of 2. Let's find the location of the full cycle by taking the bx minus c between 0 and 2 pi. Adding pi, we have pi is less than or equal to 3x is less than or equal to 3 pi. Dividing through by 3, we get pi over 3 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to pi. We are going to get a cycle then from pi over 3 to pi. Our normal cosine point of 0, 1 is stretched by a factor of 2, so it is going to become a 2. It is then shifted up 3 and shifted to the right pi over 3. That means that my cycle begins and ends at y equals 5. So I have a point pi over 3, 5, and pi 5. The minimum occurs in the middle of our cycle at 2 pi over 3. It normally has a value of negative 1. That's multiplied by 2 for the amplitude, which then becomes negative 2, but we shift it up 3 to the value of y equals 1. And again, your amplitude of 2 means that we should have our zeros 2 down, and then our minimum 2 more down from that. We have our zeros at pi over 2 and 5 pi over 6, which is halfway between pi over 3 and 2 pi over 3. Now we can sketch our graph and identify our key points. And here is our graph with our key points for the full cycle.